Hey everybody, this is going to be a really quick video today, but I got so many questions and such a strong response from last week's video about altered that I wanted to make this for you guys this week. If you haven't checked out that video, I'll put a card somewhere up here, but basically I was talking about the altered sound and some of the characteristic things that I've heard some of my favorite musicians do that to me mean altered and how I sort of learn the sound. But I want to show you an exercise that's like the simplest thing in the world, but really helps students that are new to this sound harness the power of it. It's very simple. We're just going to be playing a scale up and down, but we're going to be doing it in context. And if you do this in every key, you'll really be able to wrap your ears and your fingers and your brain around this, and then the possibilities are endless. So quick caveat before we jump in though, an exercise is just a starting point. And if you think the exercise is going to be the thing that's going to get you from not knowing anything to I'm a master and I can play anything with the altered scale, no. This exercise is just to build familiarity, to get you going, and then it's your responsibility as the jazz student to take this sound and really work on it until you can manipulate it any way you want to with the creativity that makes any device, any sound turn into music. So if you think you could just work on this exercise and you're gonna be a master of altered, no, you got a long way to go. And that's okay. That's part of the beauty of this. That's part of the fun of this music, is the exploration. Okay, so the first thing that I got some questions on last week that I failed to explain was what was I doing with my left hand? So I was starting with this shape, which is a D minor 7 flat 5. And then I was going to this shape, which is like a rootless representation of G7 flat 9. And then I was resolving that to some kind of C chord, C major or C minor. So what that really was is a 2-5-1 in C, but I was using a half diminished 2 chord, and I was using the 5 chord with obviously the alteration of flat 9, and then resolving it. Now, typically we see this half diminished 2 chord and the 5 chord with the flat 9 in a minor 2-5-1. But very often in real life, when we're playing real life tunes, we'll actually see that and it will resolve to major. So we want to study both. We want to have the ability to do both. But that's what that was. It's just a simple 2-5-1 in C. Okay, so simplest exercise ever. We're literally just going to play the altered scale up and down, but we're going to think about starting it on a particular note and resolving it on a particular note. So as I said last week, a really great note to resolve to, particularly when you're playing altered, is the 5th. So if we're going to the key of C, resolving to the 5th. And the 5th is really cool because whether it's major or minor, the 5th is kind of agnostic, right? It works over both. So it's a great note to do this exercise on. So remember, the altered scale is just if you go to the 5 chord, go up a half step, and you play melodic minor. That's how we get that collection of notes. So we want to do 2 iterations of this exercise. One's going to be ascending followed by descending, and then we'll flip that on its head. So check this out. If I want to resolve to a G, I can actually just play an ascending and a descending scale in 8th notes over the 2-5-1, and I can land right back on that G. Check it out. Isn't that nice? Let's do it to minor. So it seems too simple, right? But a lot of people will overlook this basic thing like, oh, just play the scale up and down. Well, what does that do for you? First of all, you hear the entire pitch collection. You hear every single note in that scale. You hear all the tension that it builds, and then you hear all that tension resolve. There's a lot there that's going to build your conception and actual fluency using altered if you did this in every key. Also, we're doing it in context so that you're actually like hearing the application. Where can we use the melodic minor scale? Well, altered is a great place and a very common place to use it. So why not put it in that context and just practice the scales in real life situations? So here's the first one. We just go up the scale and down the scale, starting on G and resolving to G. But here's the fun part. If we start on that exact same note, but we just descend first and then ascend, it works out perfectly again. So if we start on G, end up right back on that G. Let's do it in minor. And this is really important as well, right? Because very often when we're playing scales, we always start by ascending. So this just sort of flips that on its head. Like, yeah, you could play scales descending first. So that's it. You want to take both of those iterations and you want to just move them through the keys. And again, like, we're not doing anything super interesting. We're not doing interesting rhythmic phrasing. We're not using arpeggios. It is simply just so we can hear all the notes in the scale, we can hear all the tension that it builds, and we get a quality resolution while basically just practicing our scales and making sure we have that facility with them, which is going to come in really handy when we start to be creative. So if you're new to this sound and you know you just don't have any facility with it, just turn the video off, go practice that. That's a great way to get started. But there's a couple of ways that you can change this by simply thinking about the resolution point. So the fifth is only one resolution point. So if you thought about resolving to the third, how would it change? If you thought about resolving to the root, how would it change? If you thought about resolving to the ninth, as we talked about in the last video, how would it change? So you see, one little simple thing can turn into a lot of really beneficial practice. Okay, so that's about it. Very simple this week, but the question is, are you going to do it? And if you are, you'll be coming back to me saying, hey, I really know and understand this sound now. And if you like this video, you're definitely going to like this one on the screen right now. All right, everybody, talk to you soon. Bye.